Hello, everybody, and welcome to our expert coach interview again. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope everyone is good out there. Really appreciate you joining us today for this interview with Grandmaster Paul Weiler. We're really honored to have him join us today for this interview. Just before we begin, questions are welcome. To ask a question, though, you have to do that on either the Facebook feed as a comment or on the YouTube feed. We're trying this time, so you can have a look at the YouTube channel also if you wish. On Facebook, you have to give StreamYard, which is the software we're using, permission to comment. So there's a little link above this that you should see. So if you'd like to ask a question, you have to do that first, I think. So we've already got a few good mornings. So I'll just start to pop those up as they come. In fact, if you'd like to just say hello and where you're from, that would be really great. It would be nice to know where everyone is and where they're tuning in from today. So yeah, big welcome for everybody. So Grandmaster Paul Weiler, it's a great honor, as I said, and a pleasure to have him on the interview this morning. He's waiting in the wings, so without any further ado, I will pop him up on the screen and say good morning or good evening. Hi, sir.
Yeah. Hello, Master McPhail. I saw Mr. Blyder and also Mr. Legros. Well, it is a pleasure, and I want to thank you for the time, Master McPhail, you invested to make this possible. I'm not a technical person concerning the social media. I just use them, but I do not have any clue to build them up. So I hope that all of you are healthy in light of the coronavirus. We hear so many negative information every day, and maybe tonight we have, or today for you today, we have the opportunity to speak a little bit positive, not only about the negative things.
That would be excellent. So Grandmaster Weiler, you're in Cologne at your home. Have you been in isolation? Is everyone in Germany locked down at the moment?
Our lockdown is not that tough. We can move. We can go to the supermarket, to the doctor, of course, and also we can, in small groups, 2-3 people can go together, so we can move.
Okay.
And I use this situation at this moment in time when I'm not traveling. I go every second day for my running exercise. We have a forest nearby and a lake.
Wow.
So after the running, I go to the lake. I have a short swimming, and that's fine. So I try to do my best for myself, and I enjoy.
Fantastic. Can I begin the interview today, sir, by asking you about when you first started Taekwondo? It was many years ago and in Cologne, I believe. How did that happen for you?
Well, this is a little bit funny story, at least from my point of view. I was a student of the Cologne University at that time, and I was studying geography. And in the evening, I went to the sports hall. I saw a boxing group. So these boxers from the university, they were very good. I started with boxing, and 1.5 years later, I started with physical education at the high school, Deutsche Sporthochschule. And according to my daily schedule, I haven't had time to go to the boxing exercises anymore. And after the boxing group, strange people in a white suit, they came into the hall, and these were Taekwondo people. At that time, I didn't know what Taekwondo is. So I was watching this exercise for 1 hour, and I said to myself, okay, this is something you have to start. I did it. And after the first training session, I had 3 or 4 days, I could not move. I had so much pain in my muscles, it was unbelievable. So this was my first experience with Taekwondo. This was 1972.
Right. I think we all remember the same feeling. Yes, fantastic. Your history in the German federations, I mean, you've had many years of being president and treasurer and all sorts of different committee members, so probably too many to get into. But the one I'm really interested in asking you about is when General Choi appointed you, I think it was the consultative committee for the ITF. So how did that come about with General Choi actually appointing you onto a committee?
Well, it was a big surprise to me because I had a good relation with General Che, to be honest. And after the World Championship in Rimini, 2001, this was July, 3 weeks later, I received a letter from Grandmaster McCallum, at that time the Under Secretary General, and he have sent a letter to me and explained that General Che appointed me to be a member of the Consultative Council, and we would have a meeting in beginning of September in Vienna. And well, I felt very honored, no doubt about that. And from there, we had until his last seminar in Vienna. This was in January 2002. In these 4 months period, we had many discussions with General Chair, many meetings, and well, it was a super experience.
Well, moving on to more recent times, since you've been appointed as the president of the ITF with our headquarters based in Spain, or now their office is in Poland, that's been around 1 year now since the new board has been appointed. Any reflections on the past year, how it's been for you, or how things have gone?
I expected a lot of work after the elections, but I did not expect that much work. However, it is part of the game, and we have some issues in our federation that we have to clarify, and this is very time consuming. Just an example, because we have the idea, and this is one of our visions, and also my vision, to become a member of an international sports organization like GAIS, General Assembly of International Sport Federations. And we need all the papers, the documents, in order to apply for the membership. So this is very time consuming, and maybe you can imagine when you ask countries to send the proper papers, then very often you do not receive an answer, or the people do not understand correctly. So then you have to start again and again. But we are very positive, and I think we can achieve a lot, especially now with the new board. And this is, of course, a challenge. And we trust and we count on the members that they understand that this is our future.
What about for you personally? This has obviously become your full-time job. How do you manage on a personal level, family, and so on? Are you able to still carve out some spare time for yourself?
Well, this is the biggest problem, frankly speaking. The time is very much limited. My twins, my sons, they are adults, so there's not a problem at all.
Right.
And I'm a pensioner since 2 years, so I have more free time than I had before.
Right.
But now the free time is full with work for the ITF. I like that. However, sometimes it is tough. Yes, it's a lot of work, and I have to put aside my personal things.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for all the work you do. I remember years ago seeing your role as the treasurer and all the work you were putting in back, after 2002, 2003, all that time. It was just, I was thinking, man, you have an incredible capacity for work, it seems. So we're very lucky. And that also reminds me of Grandmaster Tran. When he was the president, he was also a hard worker, wasn't he? And he managed to get a lot done for our organization when he was in that role.
Well, my experience with Grandmaster Tran is very, very positive. I have a deep respect to him, and I bow my head. What he started after the passing away of our founder, General Che, it was a very hard time because the federation was split in 2-3 groups, and he was amazing. He did an amazing work, and we still have the benefit of what he did in that period of time. So we can be grateful having him as a president, as a former president.
Right. So we've had a few questions come in. I would like to put to you. The first one is from Mr. Brider from England. And he's asking about, with the current lockdowns, with the COVID-19 situation, do you have any advice? And he's asking whether the board have talked much about the risk level, I guess, to the organization, events and so on. And I guess just a rough idea of where the board is at the moment.
Well, hello, Mr. Brider. I am following every day your comments on Facebook when you're quoting General Che. This is, for example, one opportunity to keep in contact with our members, to give them some positive feedback, to give them some motivation. And this is for us also very important. When I look back to our plan to have the IIC in Korea, this should have happened last week. Unfortunately, the coronavirus destroyed this plan, this historic event. It was more than a tough situation to cancel it and to take a decision and to say, no, we cannot do it because we invested so much time and energy. But the health of our members are number one on the top. And this is, unfortunately, we had to take this decision. And for sure, you realize that in the last month, we decided already to postpone or cancel all the events until end of June. Now the April is almost over, and we have to take a decision for July, for example. And you are living in the UK, and the next IIC should happen in the UK. So we have to make a big question mark behind this event. And it will be another tough situation and decision for us to say, probably, to say no. So what can we do in these situations? What we can do is, like you, to motivate our members. We are organizing Zoom meetings. For example, Grandmaster Marano did the first step. And we are preparing Zoom meetings with the representatives of the different continents, for example. Like on the weekend, on the forthcoming weekend, we have 2 with the Central America and with the South America. And we are also preparing Zoom meetings with chairs of the different committees so that our members have the opportunity to join these meetings and also to ask questions or to participate in different activities.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brider also has a second question about are there any plans to document historical records of things like stories or anecdotes about General Choi or Grandmaster Tran? I think he is, I know he loves this stuff, and he's just very keen to see something formalized before it gets to the point where we all forget. So yeah, I guess that's his question.
Well, this is a very good question, and this is something for us as a motivation to do something in that direction. We have the masters, the grandmasters. They have for sure they have a lot of stories with General Che, and for sure the Canadian members have a lot of stories and information about Grandmaster Tran. But this is a good idea, and I will discuss this on the board. We will have a board meeting in 1 week, and this is something as a motivation for us, and a good idea, good question. Thank you for this.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Peter Graham from New Zealand asked a question. Bit of a political one, I guess. Good on you, Mr. Graham.
Hello.
Is there any work being done about getting the organizations, ITF organizations together? It seems to be an ideal time.
Sorry. Well, so far, frankly speaking, we haven't had time to speak about this. The only thing we had in the past was we tried to have a meeting with the new president of the ITF from North Korea, Mr. Ri Yong-sung. But also due to the coronavirus situation, this meeting was cancelled. The idea was to have the meeting at the GAIS convention in China in April this month. But due to this, in light of the coronavirus, also this has been cancelled, unfortunately. So we have to find another date. When you're asking about Grandmaster Che Jong-wa's group, there were no contacts since many years. And at this moment in time, we do not have any plan for a meeting with the Che Jong-wa group.
A question's just come in from, I can find it, I've lost it now. It was an 11-year-old. I think. And they'd like to ask about the use of upset punches in sparring. So that's from one extreme to another. A TKD question for you, sir.
Use upset punches in sparring. Well, we have already some techniques. They were more or less integrated from the boxing or from kickboxing. Sometimes we see this in sparring competition, but there is no plan to allow this. But this is not my decision. We have to discuss on the board, and we also have to follow the tournament and umpire committee. So I think this is something this should be decided there. I'm personally, when you want to have my personal opinion, I do not agree to have the upset punch as a part of our sparring. Is too tough and too dangerous from my point of view, and we have an obligation to keep our athletes healthy, also at the competition.
Debbie Hart from New Zealand is asking about your children's family involvement in Taekwondo. Were they training at some stage?
Yeah, my two sons, my twins, they're Andreas and Christian. They started Taekwondo with 8 and stopped with 15 because, you know, in Germany, football is the number one. And unfortunately, they stopped with 15. They are first degree black belt.
Okay.
After that, they stopped. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. You mentioned the IIC in Korea before, sir. So I know it's impossible to say, but I presume the plan is to still go ahead with that when we can. I do remember hearing possibly the idea, the goal was to have the same time next year. Is that still the case?
Well, this was our idea to do so. However, we are not sure at this moment in time if this is possible to go ahead with that plan next year at the same time. Also, a little bit the meaning is different because this year we have the 65th anniversary of the birthday of Taekwondo, and next year same period is 66 years, but this is the 66 is then nothing special. 65, yes, maybe 70, but this is at this moment in time it's not easy to answer that question. We try to do our best for some special reasons. The reason number one, when General Che left Korea in 1972, since then we haven't had a proper organization of the ITF in South Korea. All the meetings and negotiations between the Koreans at that time, they failed. And for political reasons, for other reasons, so it would take too much time to discuss this in detail. However, in 2005, when I was the organizer of the World Championship in Dortmund, I had a contact to South Korea, and this gentleman came to Dortmund, and it was our plan to start with him to build up a new organization, ITF organization in South Korea. Unfortunately, this gentleman was not able to work with us. And in 2012, 7 years later, Grandmaster Tran and myself, we went to South Korea for the same reason. And again, we had one contact, and again, the same contact was not able to do so. Well, then we started to think, and last year, even prior to the elections, I went to South Korea, having another contact there, and it was very promising to speak with these people. However, finally, there were other problems, and at the end, the coronavirus destroyed our plan. It is now difficult to answer, shall we go ahead with that plan next year already, or maybe we postpone it for 2 years? So this we have to decide on the board. And but at this moment in time, I think we have more important issues to discuss and to decide. I would love to be honest, but I cannot say yes now.
Mr. Francisco Patino is asking about, would you recommend, or how do you recommend to create more discipline? I'm interested on your ideas on this, because I'm wondering whether sometimes our level of discipline and etiquette in the ITF could be improved. I guess I think it comes down to what we do in our clubs and what we do as instructors firstly, but as an organization, do you have any thoughts on whether we could improve this aspect?
Well, from my point of view, it is the main task is with the instructors and the masters and grandmasters. to be a role model for discipline. I mean, in the training and in the competition. Personally, I also have the impression that after General Che passed away, and many instructors nowadays, fourth degree and higher, fifth degree, for example, they have never had the opportunity to train with General Che. We have a seminar with him in IIC. And this is a very pity, but it's not the fault of these people. However, my impression and my experience is that sometimes this the Do of our Taekwondo disappear a little bit. And therefore, I appreciate very much our committee, the Do and Ethics Committee, under the leadership of Dr. Gauthier, and also the support of Grandmaster Marano, the chairman of the committee, implement again the Do session, the Do course, the Do seminar, and the IIC. So the instructors, our instructors, fourth degree and higher, they should be the role model for our students concerning the discipline. And with the plan to have the Do seminar as a part of the IIC, I think we can start again with this project, which has been done for 2-3 years, and then unfortunately it stops. But now we do the next step, and we want to start again with this, and also to motivate our instructors and to give service to our instructors, that this should be part of our Taekwondo, also to keep the legacy of our founder. And this is for sure part of the Do and the discipline, yes.
A question about conducting virtual tournaments. I've thought about virtual seminars, but I see there are some sports. I think I've seen some motor racing virtual tournaments happening around the place. I don't know whether you've thought about this one, sir.
When I look on the patterns, I think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
And this is also possible. I was just speaking with Master Vones, the president of ITF Germany, and he explained to me that they are going to organize a virtual tournament next week or the week after. And he was explaining also the pros and cons and also the difficulties. However, under the bottom line, he was very positive, and me too, that this could be a good idea, at least for the pattern. I think for sparring is almost impossible, more or less impossible, at least from my point of view.
Yep.
And also the breaking or the traditional sparring. But we should start with the pattern. I think this is a good idea. Also, a new experience for us, because we do not know the outcome at this moment. But I am very positive with that. I would support it.
Pre-arranged sparring could work, because it would just be like judging patterns. Breaking special technique, possibly, if the setups and the equipment was exactly the same in the different places, and you had good judges, that you never know. Interesting. We have another question come in. Terry Donnelly is asking about, there are different programs such as the Kids in the Harmony program and the ITF. Has any thought been given to a creation of a program specifically for self-defense?
Well, this is, we have some experts, especially for self-defense. I know that. When I was in Africa, we had one instructor from Sweden, and he did a very good job. And we were giving a seminar for the police and the army forces. So they were very much impressed, and were asking for more seminars. When we look from the traditional part, Taekwondo itself is a self-defense martial art. is similar to, you mentioned Krav Maga and other martial arts. And this is a question I have to discuss with Grandmaster Marano as the chair of the technical committee. You know that our IICs have limited time over 2.5 or 3 days, and almost 80%, probably 80%, is addicted to the patterns. And we have step sparring, a little sparring, and a little self-defense. And I understand this question completely, because sometimes people want to have more experience with self-defense. However, as I said, from the traditional part, Taekwondo as a martial art, and when you look the composition of our Taekwondo in the encyclopedia, the final goal is Taekwondo as a martial art as self-defense.
Francisco's come back with another question asking about your daily training routine.
Well, I'm 66. I do as good as I can. I do my push-ups. I do my stabilization exercises. I do my pattern. And in the beginning of this interview, I said that I go for running exercises 2 or 3 times a week. So I train almost every day. Yes. But of course, I do not train to go for any competition anymore. This is over. My time is over. I'm an outrunning model in that case.
Mr. Dugan's asking you about your Spanish language tuition. How's that going?
Oh, I have to admit that I'm a lazy student concerning languages. My wife Elena, she helped me to learn Russian, which is for me very much complicated. The Spanish language I understand a little bit more than I speak, but I have to admit I'm a lazy student with that, and I also have very less time.
Mr. Bright has come back with a question about who has inspired you apart from the founder and Grandmaster Tran, who you've already mentioned. Any other important figures in your Taekwondo life, sir?
Well, of course, General Che as a founder and as a mentor for many things I did in Germany. When I became president, I had his support, and I also had the support of Grandmaster McCallum, who helped me a lot at that time. Also, Germany, in 1989, I became president, and in the same year, the wall broke down between the east and the west of Germany. So it was also a very new situation when the eastern part of Germany joined the western part. And Grandmaster McCallum was also a mentor and very helpful for me. Of course, my first Taekwondo trainer, he was giving lessons at Cologne University. And one of the, unfortunately, he passed away also already. This was Grandmaster Park Jung-tae. He was a very good technical person. I personally know Grandmaster Kwon Jae-wa. Maybe many of you do not know Grandmaster Kwon Jae-wa. He was very famous for the Song Ka-dong knife hand strike on stones.
Yep.
And well, he was also an amazing Grandmaster. Well, I can continue now with many names, but I think these were the most important people I met.
It's fantastic. Joanne's asking if you can speak Korean.
What I can speak in Korean is I can order 1 beer. And of course, the terminology. When I give seminars or when I was working as a trainer in my club, I always use the Korean terminology beside the German or the English terminology. And I was wondering very often that, Che, when he was conducting seminars, he were using only English.
Yeah.
So very, very seldom he was using the Korean terminology.
Yeah, it's
So
interesting.
I was thinking myself, it is a Korean sport, a Korean martial art, and I want to use the Korean terminology.
Do you have a favorite pattern?
My favorite pattern, this was Sam-il. I liked very much. And I remember at a seminar in Cologne, General Che was correcting me, and I was very nervous because he was asking who wants to perform Sam-il. And I was raising my little fingers, and he said, please come forward. So I was so nervous, but I went through the pattern, and he said, very good. So I went back to the group, and I was happy to be corrected by the founder.
Master Rocky asking what your occupation was prior to teaching Taekwondo?
Well, I was never a full-time Taekwondo instructor. My profession is physical education teacher, and I was working at a school for adult education for 35 years. And also geography was my second.
Okay. We had some time together on the technical committee, Grandmaster Weiler, and for me, one of my most memorable weeks in my Taekwondo life was that first week we had in Argentina with Grandmaster Morano when we first all got together. Can you give us some reflection on how your time was on the technical committee?
My time on that committee was very, very limited, only 2 years. And you mentioned Argentina in 2015, October. I will never forget you and Master Norman, of course, Grandmaster Marano, Grandmaster Ung, myself, and Master Lequer. At that time, we were meeting prior to the IIC in Buenos Aires with 1,057 participants. And when we went into the hall, I remember that you, Master McPhail, you were recording our marching in. And I was also so nervous, although there was no reason to be nervous. However, I was nervous. And there were so many 7, 8-degree masters in the first row and many international instructors. So it was an amazing situation.
Yeah.
Well, my personal experience, I love to teach. And unfortunately, after 2 years, I have to leave the committee. But I have very good memories. It was it was a group, it was a team. We were working as a team. It was a good mood between us. We had a good harmony. We had social life. We had fun. We had success. And this is something I like more than the politics. But it is part of the game. And I see that the technical committee, including yourself, you brought a lot of fresh air into that committee, and that this committee is really very successful and is one of our driving forces.
Thank you, sir. The African project, can you talk a little bit about your work there, how you got started with that? I know it's amazing what you've done in Africa and what the plans are for the future.
Well, I also have to mention now Grandmaster Tran because it was his idea in 2007 at our board meeting in Quebec City during the World Championship. He asked who is interested to go to Africa. So I was looking around and I raised my fingers and they grabbed my finger and said, okay, you go to Africa. My first visit was in June 2008, 1 year later. I went to Africa. I haven't had any clue what is going on in Africa. I was reading a little bit books about the first country, Ethiopia. I went to Ethiopia in June, and I found the confirmation that Ethiopia is one of the poorest countries in the world. So, however, they have a lot of enthusiasm. They want to learn, they want to train, and they are the characteristic of these people. They are very, very fast. They're very slim. They can jump. It's amazing. And this was a big motivation for me to say, okay, I cannot give too much for these poor people, but what I can give is a taekwondo of our founder, General Che, to give them some ideas about it. And Ethiopia was always, when we started something in Africa, it was always the first country for seminar, for the IIC, for the kids course, for the first African Cup, for the first African Championship. And I was in Ethiopia during the last 12 years, 18 or 19 times I was there. Yeah.
Wow.
So the future program, the future is that maybe you remember 4 years ago, we established the African Taekwondo Federation. And we also wanted to register this organization in Ethiopia. We are still in progress. You see that in Africa, the time, the clock is different than in Europe or in New Zealand or in America. And also the mentality and the culture and the language, everything is different. So, but it is a great challenge, and it is a project which we should continue. And when I went there, 2008, this group were having almost 3,000 members. They came from the Changon group. And now they have more than 20,000. But this is not my work. I just gave the idea and they started to work and they learned also to work, but they were not used to work. This was also a problem.
Yeah.
So just a short example, when you say, I'm a German and I have to be there at 10, I will be there at 10. But when you speak with Africans, it doesn't mean that they will be there at 10. It can be 12, it can be 1 o'clock, it can be 2 o'clock. The most important thing is on the same day. So that is the mentality.
Yeah. Well, it may not have been all your work, but I think your leadership and your energy and passion has been a big factor in the growth there. So on behalf of everybody, thank you for all your work you're doing. I know it's amazing. Thank you. Brendan Dugan's asking if you have a favorite Taekwondo book, other than the obvious one, I guess, or maybe not.
Well, the first Taekwondo encyclopedia in German language I bought in 1974.
Oh.
And this was my Bible, and I still have this book. Of course, in 1974, this book was not complete because General Che changed things and he amended chapters and he amended techniques. But this was my first. And in the same year, at that time, I have to explain, at that time in Germany, you have very less literature to find about martial art, especially Taekwondo. So it was not like in the English-speaking countries, like in the United States or UK, but in Germany, there were only one book in German language, and this was my first Bible, to say. And I had another book from a German instructor, but he was, I will not say old-fashioned, but he was practicing the Jung style. It was a very small book, but it was very important for me because it was the first book I had for the Jungs.
The first one you mentioned, who translated that?
The first book was translated, I think, with the help of Mr. Robert Walson from the United States.
Right.
And the company was Sportrode in Germany. This was a company like Top 10 now with Mr. Peter Kuckenhauser, but Sportrode was famous for judo and karate, and they started one of the first companies to sell doboks, Taekwondo doboks, and the first safety equipment which has been developed by Grandmaster John Rhee from the USA. So this was the first products they sold here in Germany in 1972, 1973.
Fantastic. That's amazing. What do you think about people under the age of 18 getting their black belts?
The times has changed. When I started Taekwondo in 1972, we haven't had youth or student practitioners. We're only adults.
Yeah.
But nowadays we have the society has been changed, and when the kids started already with 3 or 4 years of age, and they have their time and they have their training, then there is nothing to say against when somebody is a first degree with 16 or 17. I do not have any objection. And also, when I see from the physical part nowadays, and as a physical education teacher, the youth nowadays, they are much more ahead than we were at the same time 30 years back. So with the physical education, with the physiology and anatomy. Yeah.
What was your most emotional moment in Taekwondo? Gaston.
The most emotional moment was a sad moment because it was my visit when Grandmaster Tran passed away, and I went to Canada together with our ex-president Grandmaster Treitenberg, and to speak with the Tran family, the widow of Grandmaster Tran and Joliet Tran and Nicholas Tran. This was, I do not have the correct words for that to describe my feelings, but this was very emotional for me, and this was unfortunately was a sad moment.
Thank you. Grandmaster McCullum's son is asking you about your favorite Taekwondo technique.
This is the reverse knife hand strike, a Song Kaldung. I was my idol was my role model was Grandmaster Kwon Jiwa. I was fascinating when I saw his reverse knife hand strike. So I wanted to try this, and I trained this very often, and I did a lot of breakings with that.
Fantastic. Bernadette is asking you if you have a memory or most remembered competition that you were in.
Yes, this was my last competition, the World Championship 1988 in Hungary, Budapest. I was in the final for power breaking, and we were 3 people. At that time, the system was a little bit different. We were 3 people, one person from Canada, when I remember well, one person from the Netherlands, and myself. So we had the wooden boards, and there were 6 boards were in the machine, and it was a front fist punch, and I hit the boards, and the first two boards remain unbroken, but the last four boards, they broke. However, this was not good enough, so there were two people were better than me, so I had the third place. But at that time, only the first place received a certificate or a medal.
Wow, incredible. If there was something in Taekwondo you could change, what would it be?
I have an idea. I'm not sure if I should explain. Well, no, I will explain. I will explain. And maybe Master McPhail, you know already what I'm talking about. Um, when we talk about Chuche, I think there could be an opportunity that our founder, General Che, should have his own pattern. And it was an idea which I had already 5-6 years ago, and I shared this idea with Grandmaster Marana, but he was not happy with that, and I can understand. Uh, so I wanted to rename the pattern and the philosophy of the pattern. I wanted to name the pattern Chuche as the pattern Chang Hun. This is the pen name of our founder, Chang Hun pattern, with the 45 movements. And I was thinking that the 45 movements represent the year 1945, when Korea was liberated from the occupation of Japan, and the young uh, lieutenant, General Che, or Che Hong-hee, started to create and to build up the South Korean army against all odds. So this was an idea, but maybe another generation will change that.
What steps should a black belt that comes from another federation follow to join ours? I guess it's up to the national bodies, is it? The national organization?
Yeah, first of all, of course, the step is to become a member of the National Association, to follow the rules and regulations, and to show that he is really part of our Taekwondo family. Why do I say this? Very often, at least this is my experience, we have situations that people coming from other organizations, they join our ITF organization, and the next question is, when can I do my next promotion test? As soon as they have the promotion test, then they leave the federation again. I call these people federation jumpers. And this is not serious. Only to join an organization because to be promoted to the next degree. So there should be, the character also should be okay when we promote people. It's not just the technique, but also the character should be in order.
Frank Prim, sir, is asking about women, getting women involved in more senior roles such as IICs and other committees, I guess.
Okay, the last year at the Congress, after the elections, we could confirm that we have now, for the first time in history, 2 women on the ITF board. And we have 1 women committee, and altogether now we have 17 committees and 3 ad hoc teams, altogether 20 teams. And meanwhile, in 50% of these teams or committees, we have women involved. This is the first step, of course. I know that the martial arts are still dominated by men, and also our ITF is still dominated. However, when the first step is done, the next step will follow for sure. And I was in contact with some chairs and to speak with them. Please take into consideration that women can do the same work as men, so there is no difference. And this should be one of the guidelines for the future, that we involve the women in also other positions, other committees. And maybe the next president is a lady. We don't know.
Here's a question, sir, that I'm sure everyone's been asking. The World Cup 2020, what do you think? Is it going to go ahead or maybe not?
We have now end of April. The World Cup in Qatar is scheduled for beginning of October. That means we have only 5 months to go. 5 months in the preparation of a world event is nothing. And now we have the insurance and the uncertain moment that the coronavirus is not over yet. And according to an information I received yesterday, some scientists, they expecting a second wave, which is more tough than the first one. So it is a very hard decision, and we want to wait until the last moment. We are monitoring the situation. As I said, we have almost end of April, but I think that in 3 or 4 weeks we have to take a decision. And I only can cross my fingers at this moment in time and can say, hopefully, we can continue, but I have really doubts. I have my doubts. Okay. So I cannot say now yes or no, but
yeah.
We will inform you as soon as possible. Of course, we have to speak with the organizer, Master Barada. And we are in a steady contact because he is also on the board. And we are discussing almost every second day about the situation.
Thank you. Well, we're coming up to nearly an hour, so I think we should wrap it up. We've had some really great questions come in, and sir, I really appreciate you taking the time with us this evening. You're always so generous with your time, and you've also been a great supporter of TKD coaching and encouraging people to do what they love to do, and we do appreciate that. And today's interview has been fantastic. There have been a few more questions I think I may have missed, but I've done my best to get most of them up on the screen. So apologies to anyone that didn't get their question answered today. So sir, thank you very much again. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you for spending time with us. Good luck for the months ahead with the ITF and COVID-19 and everything. Yeah, all the best, and thank you again.
I have to thank you and also all our members who participated in this interview. And I apologize for my limited English. I'm not a native speaker, and sometimes my explanation may be a little bit strange for you. But under the bottom line, I think we understand each other.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody, and good night. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in.
And stay healthy and safe. Yeah, this is the most important thing.
Yes.
Thank you, Master McPhail, and all. Hello to the participants.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.